We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And what's been going on in the world this week, Tom? Quite a few things in the United States. There's been all kinds of Washington, D.C. news.
Please?
Yeah,
can I first of all, I can't keep up with everything that's happening here because it's all a dumpster fire. Not all of it. Some of it's got to be good. Yeah. They only have a report on that.
Yeah, somewhere buried down deep. There's got to be some good stuff.
My friend had a birthday today.
Happy birthday to your friend.
Yeah, who is, I don't know.
Don't know how many years old.
They're in the 30s, I think.
Oh, that's
maybe
a young
40.
Friend.
I don't know. They're young. Yes, I am. I went on a bike ride with them. They're a cyclist person. So they're like, we're having a bike ride for my birthday. I'm like, what is it? The normal bike ride, but it's for my birthday. I'm like, I guess.
We've been
such a good friend.
Toying with Tom's microphone levels, trying to get it to stop dynamically adjusting its volume on his computer. So that's been there. But
expect things to be messed up on my end for a while because we cannot figure out why my laptop will not.
Yeah.
Stop dynamically adjust. I mean,
the mic.
It just keeps doing it. It won't stop. So,
but
much like my children, it does not listen to me.
Right.
So,
historical context's sake, we had what? President Trump exerting federal control over the Washington D.C. police force this past week, bringing in the National Guard.
It's not really that big of a deal.
No, but that is unprecedented. I mean, Washington D.C. is not a state, so there is a provision that allows the federal government to do that. But they haven't ever exerted that force before, so that is historical context. You had Tim Cook from Apple visiting the White House and just on camera presenting a 24-karat gold bribe to the president to try and escape tariffs.
That's what we're doing these days.
That was just plainly so.
You don't like tariffs? Get yourself a gold bar.
Right.
That's how that works, in case you're wondering.
Rather bizarre.
This is not political. It's not a political statement. This is a factual reporting of what happened.
Yeah, so it is. That's straightforward. You had the U.S. government plainly telling NVIDIA and AMD that any chips that they sell to China, the U.S. government gets a cut. They just get a cut. I don't know why. But
I don't
they
know
do
how
now.
That's supposed to work, but whatever.
All that's been going on. ChatGPT 5
normal
launched.
stuff.
Yeah, ChatGPT 5
Thanks
came
for
out.
not bringing up American stuff, though.
There's claiming.
What are you Canadians doing? I'm sure something over there is on fire. Well, it usually is at this time of year.
Yeah, before that, the ChatGPT 5, Sam Altman saying that the big new feature is that it hallucinates a little bit less, and immediately told you that there are 3-letter B's in the word blueberry. So It's getting better. Training on itself.
I saw somebody do a video where he asked ChatGPT to put the alphabet up on the screen and highlight the vowels.
Sure.
And it could not do that accurately.
No.
At all.
I mean, there wasn't a website that ever bothered to write that down for it to scrape, so that's the issue, is that it doesn't actually think. It just copies and pastes faster than a human can. That's what it actually is doing.
I'm trying to figure out, because it's, the AI, the large learning model whole situation is clearly a bubble. It is they're pumping money into it.
This current branch of it, this generative LLM thing is a bubble. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out how it's going to ruin my life when it bursts, because clearly it will. All the other bubbles have affected me negatively. How could this one not?
No, because it's like the mortgage bubble that burst in 2008. It's a similar thing when so much money is thrown into something that isn't going to go well. People are going to be screaming for bailouts. That's going to be happening with the LLMs. We're predicting.
I hope
who knows?
Sam Altman is okay at the end of it. That's the only thing that matters to me.
I have great.
I don't
faith.
care about my own personal 401k.
Yeah.
I just hope that Sam Altman will be all right.
Before we leave the U.S., there was a big explosion at a Pennsylvania steel factory. At least one person dead, multiple people injured. So that was
I know about this? I don't think I knew about
very frightening. That was pretty recent as we're recording this. And then so you asked about Canada. Wildfires continue. That's what's going on in Canada.
You guys don't even do anything new. It's like that you're always playing the same old hits.
We don't have a trade deal yet. They set an August 1st deadline. That definitely has not come to pass. The trade deal with the U.S.
No one was serious about that deadline, let's be honest.
Got Pierre Poilievre back criticizing, saying, hey, you promised a trade deal by August the 1st. You don't have one. We definitely would not have been able to do better as the Conservative government, but we're going to criticize you anyway. That's going on there. And he might not even win his by-election riding to remain a member of our parliament. So that would be ironic and kind of funny. But we'll see how that goes.
That's fun.
Yeah. RFK Jr.
No
cut
real
all your
news
vaccine
on
funding.
my front from the House situation. Still data being transferred from one place to another.
Okay.
People saying you need to do this, and then us doing it, and they say, oh yeah, you need to also do this. Like, could you just have given us a list at the beginning of this process?
That would help, yeah.
But that's not how the process works.
Maybe AI could have helped them with that.
Maybe. Could have highlighted all the things I needed to do. I could have done them all, and then the people will go, why did you do any of this?
I mean, at least the things people prior to you wrote down that they needed to do, it could have given you a list of that.
Yeah. It doesn't encourage me to write more articles online. I'll be honest with you, the LLM situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't encourage. It does encourage me to write really funny articles online full of just like over the top stupidness.
Yeah.
Just to see how the LLMs will deal with that.
Well, they're all the folks, saying that, creative people who are like struggling, not rich whatsoever, and they're either posting on their blogs or their Substacks or whatever it is, and they're like, well, the new strategy is every 7th word we just put a random word in there. So it's like a human can parse that and read through it and be like, yeah, every 7th word has absolutely no meaning. I just cut that out as I'm reading along. But the LLM has difficulty figuring out that every 7th word is just a random nonsense word that has nothing to do with the rest of the sentence or article. Fun times.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anything interesting going on with you other than fighting fires or whatever it is you do over there in Canada?
No, I don't think so.
You guys had a tsunami? Was that last week?
No, that was warning was last week. Could have hit the West Coast, but it did not. Thankfully, yeah. So no, in my personal life, nothing particularly exciting going on. I got a dentist appointment coming up. That's
very
big news.
Exciting.
Yeah.
My wife has a cavity, so she just went to the dentist yesterday.
There you go.
She has a cavity, and I don't know about you people and your significant others, but that's the sort of moral failing that in our house gets brought up. Like if I have dental work done, my wife's like, you don't brush your teeth enough. And now she has a cavity and I don't. So conversations around the house are a little tense right now. She's like, we need to start getting mouthwash with fluoride because RFK Jr. decided fluoride was bad.
Sure.
And drinking raw unpasteurized milk is okay. So we don't have fluoride in our water anymore.
Right.
For whatever stupid reason. So now she's like, we need to get this mouthwash with fluoride. I said, or you could just be a better person like me and have good teeth. Yes. So there's a little bit of that going on right now.
Great. We got to make our own entertainment around here.
Hey, when you've been married for as long as I have,
right.
You don't fight about stuff anymore. If you are, then you should have just gone ahead and ended it. We don't fight about stuff. We just make each other laugh by being absolutely stupid. And if you're going to call me and tell me that you got a cavity and how much it's going to cost to get it fixed,
there's that. There's how much it costs to get it fixed. I forget to think about that sort of thing.
I don't know. I saw the bill, not the bill, but the estimate or whatever it's called, the write-up. And I don't know how much of that is covered by our insurance. We have good insurance. She has good insurance. I have nothing because I am a freeloader. Yeah. I am a kept man, as I should be, because I am so very, very pretty and witty. So what do we watch this week, Rob? I'm going to talk about your stuff first because I'm very interested to hear what you thought about your movie.
Well, then why don't I start? Yeah, I watched The Fantastic Four: First Steps. This is the latest Marvel feature. It is still in theaters, and I saw it on not just the last day, but like literally the last showing in IMAX, because it's already out of IMAX as we're recording this. It's been replaced by, what is that new movie? Somebody mentioned it just a little bit lower. Weapons. Weapons has taken over all the IMAX theaters in my area.
Right. That's supposed to be excellent.
It's supposed to be really good. I haven't seen that yet.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
I mean, I have people who don't like horror movies telling me that they are like, oh my God, have you seen Weapons? It's so good. I'm like, why would you go see it? Well, I like good movies. Okay, whatever. But anyways, I heard that was excellent.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about The Fantastic Four: First Steps. So yeah, this is, and I'm going to say, starring Vanessa Kirby, and then a bunch of other people, including Pedro Pascal, Eben Moss-Backrack, Joseph Quinn.
Which one is Vanessa Kirby? Is she
Julia Garner?
Sue Storm?
She is Sue Storm.
Okay.
And this is her movie. She is the star of this movie, and everybody else is along for the ride.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So I didn't love this movie.
Okay.
I didn't hate this movie, but
okay.
it kind of felt a little bit light and inconsequential in several ways. But honestly,
with Galactus,
yeah.
Honestly, and inconsequential.
I feel like this movie is a victim of current world circumstance, because obviously,
as so many are, yes,
they were writing and planning and pre-productioning and making this movie years ago.
Sure.
And so it is interesting that it comes out so close on the heels of Superman, and how people have responded to Superman and its message of hope and not giving up your optimism and not giving up your faith in people and seeing the beauty in all life that's around and cherishing that and valuing that, and how that message has resonated with a lot of people in Superman. And you're going to say, well, this really very optimistic version of a different Earth, because we're on a different Earth for this version of the Fantastic Four. We're not in the Marvel universe. Within their own speech, they call, what's supposed to be our world the 616 Earth. So this is on a 838 or something like that. It's a different Earth, part of the multiverse. Okay. And it's an alternate history where the Fantastic Four, were there and, drastically changed the world, helping the world in that. But everything has stayed in this sort of retro futuristic 60s vibe. All the TV shows look like they looked in the 60s, but they're in color and high def. And then, they have modern wireless technology, but everything has that sort of 60s aesthetic to it on this version of Earth. And it's a very, very optimistic, very, very cheerful, very, very reasonable Earth, where you can, people will say, hey, that doesn't seem quite right. And then you can explain why you did it. And everyone's like, oh, that makes sense, and goes on with their day. And so because of that, it just feels so foreign to everything that it is now, that I didn't feel like I had anything to grab onto the way I did in Superman, where it felt like close enough that I could kind of grab onto that message. This just felt like a completely alien world with completely alien humans who don't respond the way humans in our real life do. And for that reason, I didn't feel very much connection at all to anything that was going on. Also, every shot is packed full of special effects, and it all kind of looks flat. It all kind of looks like people walking in front of a screen with a bunch of images projected behind them. Very high quality images, but
you didn't see it in 3D then? That's a shame.
No, I did not see it in 3D. But yeah, I just had that very, well, we'll figure out what's behind all of these actors later type of look to this entire movie. So it's like, yeah, high quality work going on, but just none of it feels attached or real or consequential to me. And so then, you got Pedro Pascal. He's Mr. Fantastic. He's Reed Richards. Pedro Pascal, we've seen him in oodles of things. He's all over the place right now. We know he's a good actor. He had no charm in this movie, and I don't understand it. Because that's not Pedro Pascal's fault. We know he can be charming as all get out.
He can be charming inside of a Mandalorian mask.
Right.
So.
Right. He was just lifeless and deadpan, and they barely had him stretch because they figured out that stretchiness just doesn't look that great on screen, so he barely ever stretches as Mr. Fantastic. And then what's crazy is I've seen several of the promotional interviews interviews where you had Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal, and the two of them just as human beings on promotion, of course, so they're a little bit elevated, but like, man, they got chemistry in real life. Yeah. They got fantastic chemistry. They're hilarious together. They're charming. There was all these speculation because they do a good job of seeming like they're kind of into each other in real life. You get none of that in this movie. They're married. They're supposed to be madly in love with one another, and I'm just like,
that's true.
There's no heat. There's no heat between these two characters, and it's not because of the actors. Because like, I've seen the actors in other things, and I've seen them in real life, and they can generate heat if they want to, and there's none in this movie, and it's a little bit strange. I don't know what failed on that front.
Feel like I heard that he was trying to not do his normal accent,
definitely,
and do a more like 60s retro sort of accent, and then they kept pushing him towards just speaking normally.
Okay.
I don't know how that might have affected his performance one way or the other, but
if this had been the only thing I had ever seen Pedro Pascal in, and I had never seen any other thing of him ever, I would have thought he's a lifeless actor, which is bizarre. Really, really bizarre. Strangely, I felt like this movie was too short because I didn't feel like we spent enough time to get a taste of what this world is. It's just like, let's go, come on, next scene, next plot point, let's go, snappy, let's keep it moving. And it just felt like, keep it moving, roll along, keep it going. Like, that's not great. I don't want a movie to just feel like, okay, next scene, let's go, next. And that just is kind of what it felt like.
Whenever anybody says something like that, I think about the fourth Mummy movie.
Okay.
The one with Jet Li in it, where you're like, you barely had a chance for anybody to talk before the next thing happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't even care.
Well, and that's just it. Again, it feels disconnected for me. I like all the stuff is there in plot points on the page. If you just read the bullet points of what's going on, you're like, oh, that sounds like it could be good and compelling, but it just doesn't have the space to breathe and play out and let you feel connected to. At least I didn't. Maybe this is all me, but I don't know. I'm not the only one making these types of criticisms, so I don't think I'm completely out to lunch here. Now, the other thing is, this movie, The Fantastic Four: First Steps, it could easily be a case of, okay, what we're going to do is take Fantastic Four that Fox made back in the day, right? When you had Chris Evans and Jessica Alba, and like have that, and that was movie number one, and then this is now the sequel to that movie. Forget about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, because it is just the same story again, which is weird. Everything to do with Galactus and the Silver Surfer is the same as Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. They remade that movie with a couple of new characters and a completely different, much more comic book accurate version of Galactus thrown in. But yeah, I was kind of like, oh, we didn't particularly need this movie. It's a retelling of a movie that already exists, but now within the MCU with new actors and a better version of Galactus. Now, the other thing was Galactus, I'm guessing they have done all the calculations of how tall he's supposed to be, taken from the comic books and all that. It seems like he's changed sizes many times in the comic books, depending on the version.
There's the idea behind, well, my understanding, because I am no expert on this, is that the peoples that are seeing Galactus see him in a way that makes sense to them. He's often large, but he'll look humanesque to humans, but he'll look something else to an alien race. So his size and everything can and does, and the way he looks does change.
Okay,
yes.
But all along, like, and in this movie and in the previous version, like he is consuming entire worlds. He eats entire worlds. If that is the case, he is way too small in this movie. way too small in this movie. It doesn't make there is no way that the being that we saw on screen is capable of ingesting an entire world.
Well, it's like his spaceship, like,
grinds it all
down to an energy that he can consume or whatever.
It felt strange because you have all this buildup, and we don't, like, you see him all huge in his ship and you have no sense of scale in there. Like, he's obviously huge, but you have no idea how exactly huge until he gets to Earth and he's walking amongst the buildings. And I'm like, he's walking amongst the buildings. Like, do you have any idea of scale when you zoom out how tiny the Empire State Building is on the surface of the Earth? And he's about the size of the Empire State Building. That isn't eating a planet. I'm sorry. It was way too small. It just seemed very strange. And then, look, I guess this is going to be a spoiler, but who cares because it's so darn dumb. Galactus is defeated by pushing. They push him, and he loses.
Yeah. What? So Galactus is often, in the comics, he's not actually the threat most of the time.
Sure.
Most of the time, Galactus is there to show that something else is a threat.
Right.
So something defeats Galactus, and you're like, oh, whatever that is must be tough. Or Galactus is like a hurricane or a tsunami or something like that. Galactus is a natural disaster that's coming to get you, and you got to figure out a way to divert it. You don't actually punch Galactus usually.
Oh, they sure did in this one. and they defeat him by just giving him a little push. That's
a little shove.
Yeah, it wasn't impressive on that front. Not an impressive way to depict this villain. Better than the Cloud from Rise of the Silver Surfer. Better than that.
That was also dumb.
But anyway, so yes, all of that said, like, I did kind of enjoy the family dynamic. That's the part they did well, and thank goodness, because you needed that. They did the family dynamic pretty well. But so obviously from everything I've said there, I wasn't hugely impressed. Like I said, I didn't hate this movie. It's not like I'm mad that I saw it and felt like I wasted however long it was, 2 hours or whatever it was. It had its visual effects and everything like that. But yeah, I can't say I was super impressed by the Fantastic Four first steps.
All right. Well, there you go. You have Rob's review.
It is.
My wife said, I want to watch something and I want it to be funny. I was like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of stand-up comedy or something that we can find. And my son said, well, Happy Gilmore 2 was just released on Netflix.
It has.
I was like, oh, yeah. I forgot about that. So for those of you that aren't aware, he who's Adam Sandler, has a long history of essentially making sure that all of his friends get to eat.
Definitely.
And also go on vacations.
Yeah.
So what he'll do is decide he's going to take him and all of his friends on vacation. They're going to shoot a movie. Everybody's going to get paid.
Yep.
And then he'll often give him presents or whatever. I've heard of cars and stuff. I don't really know. Okay. So he makes sure that these actors who are his friends, do not, have work to do, from time to time to make sure that they have money. I don't know that he's their sole support or anything like that. This is what I've heard. So this is a movie that ensured that he made some money because, of course, his production company and everything else. Yep. His wife, I think, that's who she is, his 2 daughters were in this movie as well. Because I was like, that's 3 Sandlers right there, and none of them have Adam in front of their name as we watch the credits go by at the end. So if you probably don't remember this because I barely remember it. I talked about The Descent 2. And what I said about The Descent 2, which because I love the first movie, The Descent, is that the best parts of The Descent 2 is when they flash back to the first Descent and just showed scenes from that movie. Okay. And you went, wow, I remember how good that movie was. And then here you are back in this other movie that sucks. So this is not that bad. Okay. This is a perfect, the way my wife described it was, that was fine. Yeah. I'm not going to ever remember that I watched that movie. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly right. That movie it is fine. Happy Gilmore was an excellent movie in that not only were the stakes high you felt for the characters, but you cared about the characters. And the villain was the villain, and he was despicable, and you didn't, Shooter McGavin. Yeah. You didn't like him, and you wanted him to lose, and you wanted Happy to win. He was trying to save his grandmother's house, and there's all these forces aligned against him, and you cared. Yeah. Imagine that. Okay. Same plot. Yeah.
Not surprising.
Except you don't care.
There you go. Okay, a lot of that going around this week.
So it's the same stakes. The villain's not as good. The bad guy is, just sort of a tech bro with bad breath. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's pretty much the bad guy. Yeah. He's not saving his grandmother's house. It kind of is, but he's not saving his grandmother's house. He's saving golf. Oh. As a institution.
Concept of it, or
just the way that golf is played now.
I see.
Which I don't think, every time I drive by a golf course, I'm like, this is a waste. No offense to you people who love to play golf and like to be outside and stuff, but you gotta admit, it's a huge waste. This massive amount of space out here that no one can build a house on. Nobody can, there can't be anything else there.
It's a lot of water and energy as well. Yeah.
A lot of stuff goes into it. It's a waste. And I would say if you could combine it with something else so that it would seem less wasteful to me. So like, I drive by a cemetery and I think the same thing. I'm like, okay, here's a cemetery, big waste of space. No offense. I don't really think there's any reason for us to be putting people in the ground anymore. And then there's a golf course, big waste of space. You put them together. I'm like, okay, well,
good luck with that.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it's an idea. So
I don't know about that one, Tom.
I'm not going to get a lot of love for that. But it's fine.
Okay.
The best parts of that movie are when they flash back to the first parts. I cannot remember the character's name or the actor's name either, but his love interest in the first movie, who played Claire on Modern Family.
Julie Bowen. Yeah.
That's it, Julie Bowen. I cannot remember her name. She's always going to be Claire in my mind.
Sure.
She's in the movie, but just kind of cameos here and there. Okay. And she's. I don't know why she's not why they did her character so dirty in this movie, but they did, and I wish they hadn't, because she's like my favorite. I would have much more enjoyed that movie if she had been around.
Okay.
Both of his daughters are in the movie, and they're both great. I love both of them.
Good.
One plays his daughter, and one plays like this other girl that he meets.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, it's weird that he's got this other young, attractive woman that he's talking to, and they're not making it sexual in any way. So usually, no matter how old the dude is,
definitely hope not.
Yeah, no matter how old the dude is, they're always like, "Oh yeah, he could totally get that girl." I'm like, "No, he can't." And also, then at the end, we're like, "Oh, it was his daughter." That's why it was like this totally platonic thing, which was great. I thought that both his daughters were good, and his wife has a little part in this as well.
Okay,
and she was fine. Everybody was fine. Rob Schneider, or whatever his name is, he shows up.
Still hanging out with him, huh?
I guess so.
Yeah.
And they have cameos not only from, and I swear to you, it must be the actual people. Not only so the actors who were in the original movie who have passed. Mm-hmm. They're like kids are in this movie.
Right.
Like playing their kids. I think.
Okay.
I think it's the real kids.
Yeah.
Which are just like, I'm just like, I want to like this movie. I want to say that you should all go out and watch it because it's great. And because it feels like it's like this, I don't want to say charity thing, but it feels sort of like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's like, it's just the movie itself isn't very good. But
there's that.
The stakes aren't high enough.
Have a reunion, invite your friends, film it.
Exactly.
Didn't really need a script.
Friends' kids, I guess, whatever, and film it, and everybody gets paid. So it was fine. I mean, it was fine. You could see like there's some like when they do the special effects, you're like, okay, they did the special effects, and they're like, this scene's shot far enough away where we don't have to actually do the special effect thing.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, wait, but they're supposed to do the thing where they spin, but they didn't do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. It's all very.
Well,
Happy Gilmore wasn't exactly the most intelligent movie I've ever seen.
No, but it was entertaining, and it had some heart to it, and you did pull for him, and all those things.
Yeah, you cared. Yeah. You cared. And then this one, you're just kind of like,
okay. Well,
whatever.
Neither of us over the moon about what we saw this week then, but I mean, neither of us saying it's the worst thing ever, that you're bad for enjoying it if you did, and nothing like that. It's like, it's a perfectly fine entertainment that the two of us watched.
Yeah. Yeah. Just... the whole movie was like, remember how good Happy Gilmore was?
Yeah, there you go.
Don't you wish you were watching that right now?
Yeah.
Boy, you know what would be better than watching what you're watching right now? Watching Happy Gilmore.
There you go.
I did like the first Fantastic Four movie a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, I felt a lot more for that one than I did for this one. But yeah, if you consider this a sequel to that one, then it works a lot better. All right. That's enough of that. Let's move on.
All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. Yes, by emailing us a question at avrant.com. Go to our website, find our shows, our show notes, our Flickr album so you can follow along with the pictures, and links to any products or articles that we mention. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. You can contact Rob directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is @FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My socials are shut up. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's such a shame because I think that social media, was great, and then it got awful.
It sure did.
Nobody's doing anything to fix it because that's not how they make money on these things.
I guess not.
I want to thank our listeners of the week. I want to thank those. If you want to support us financially, go to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link where you can give us a PayPal donation. And we want to thank Brian for doing that this week. Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for that PayPal donation. Really appreciate your financial support.
And if you want to support us monthly, go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast. Become one of our patrons. Every month, Patreon takes whatever you tell them. I think a minimum of $1 a month, 12 whole dollars a year to from you, and send most of it to us. So we have currently 126 patrons, and we want to thank all of you.
That's for sure. That is patreon.com/AVRant podcast. If you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation, so a big thank you to our 126 patrons over there.
So, if you can't support us financially, do something to support us, and we'll mention you here. Stefan gave permission to use his photos on avgadgets.com, which is my website.
That's right.
I have not published much to, though we did rewrite Rob's, let's say Andrew, rewrote Rob's thing about Epson and published it over there.
Oh, alrighty.
So that's up there, Rob. We do try to
give
you credit at the end of those things. Say thank you to Rob H.
You might get some criticism for that coming up. We got a question about that coming up. Is this controversy? Over that over that LS 9000, yes. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Rob, have you led me astray?
Little tease for later.
Thank you, Stefan. And we got some notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Leighton, Infinite Gary, Joe, Brian, who didn't want to share any details publicly, but late last year was a difficult and emotional time for him, and he listened to us, and listening to us helped take his mind off things for a little while each week. So he wanted to thank us and say it was nice to be able to focus on something that he enjoys amidst a sadder situation.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Brian.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, Brian. But that's very nice of you to say.
David just saw Weapons and thinks it might be the best movie of the year. That's what I'm hearing so far. Sasi. Rob will be receiving the Apollon, whatever, audio Eigentakt amplifier today. That's Saucy order, but had shipped it directly to Rob for him to check out first. And John. So we got notes of gratitude from Leighton, Infinite Gary, Joe, Brian, David, Sasi, and John. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time. We got Leighton, Infinite Gary, Joe, Brian, David, Sasi, and John. Thank you so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We very much appreciate them. A big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. And Sasi forwarded me the UPS tracking data. So yeah, that says it's ready for pickup today. So I'll be collecting that and having a listen to it. And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I just hit the spring on the arm that holds this microphone. So if you heard a weird sound, that was the spring as I moved my arm. Sorry about that, guys and gals. In the news, Skydance's purchase of Paramount has cleared regulatory approval and is now complete. The new merged company will be known as Paramount, a Skydance Corporation. Just pretty soon.
So,
Tom Cruise is going to own everything.
Their whole thing of settling disputes, lawsuits, all that sort of thing in order to secure that regulatory approval seems to have worked. So
there you go.
All those parties involved are happy about that. They can go about with canceling entirely, the Late Show and go about their business.
I guess so.
Yeah.
We shall see. Disney completed the full purchase of Hulu in June. Up until then, Comcast, NBC, Universal still owned a portion, but now it's 100% entirely Disney's. So naturally, they're going to merge it with Disney Plus. Disney Plus and Hulu will be rolled into a single unified app in 2026. Outside of the USA, the Star tab within Disney Plus will be rebranded as Hulu, so the look will be more consistent in all territories. Strangely, Disney is saying that separate subscriptions to just Disney Plus or just Hulu will still be available. But it's all going to be a single app. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. I am like, first of all, I think it's a terrible idea. They shouldn't merge it into one app, because you're not going to convince you. As long as it's two separate apps, you can tell people they need two different subscriptions.
Sure.
But you put it into one app, you're like, wait a second, it's all right here. And then just give me the whole thing for the amount of money I was paying you anyways.
I think they're trying to do the thing of, you can see the content within the app, but then it says, oh, hey, if you want to access this, you need this bundle subscription, or you need this other subscription. And it's meant to entice people that way.
It's going to entice me to cancel. That's what it's going to entice me to do. JTR is venturing into some new designs aimed at making their highly efficient, high-power handling speakers more appealing to look at and easier to position in a living room setup with the introduction of their new Kallos Series. Kallos. Mm-hmm. The Kallos 265 and the Kallos 465 both use the same horn-loaded tweeter and a pair of 6.5-inch woofers and an MTM sealed wall-mountable design. Don't tell the people on Reddit, because they don't like MTM because lobing or something. I don't know.
Yep. Comb filtering. Lobing.
They hate things.
Very
they hate
MTM.
About it.
Yes.
Someone told them it was bad, and for a very specific reason, and they've latched onto it. And it's now
it can be an issue.
The larger 465 adds a pair of 6.5-inch passive radiators that are used to increase power output and power handling rather than lower the base extension. The 4.25-inch deep cabinets are made from stacked layers of Baltic birch. And you can get either the natural wood finish or JTR's matte black. The grills are magnetically attached to the 3/4-inch to add 3/4 of an inch to the overall depth. Mm-hmm. The horn-loaded tweeter can be rotated for either vertical or horizontal orientation. The tweeter is crossed over to the pair of woofers at 1500 hertz to help maintain wide dispersion. Extension on the high end is rated at 23 kilohertz minus 3 dB.
Yeah, so having that rotatable horn, that's definitely to do with whether you're going to place this horizontally or vertically, and then having that somewhat low crossover frequency from the tweeter to the woofer drivers is what should help ameliorate any of those things that can happen with an MTM design when it comes to lobing and intermodulation, distortion, and things like that, the comb filtering effect as well. So yes, one of the ways to engineer around that is by using a lower crossover frequency. So that's exactly what JTR has done.
Yeah, but don't tell Reddit. They won't understand. Sure. With top and bottom keyhole mounts and mounting bracket inserts on the back, the Kallos Series is fully intended to be wall-mounted with an on-wall based extension down to 80 hertz for either model. The freestanding JTR suggests using a 100 hertz crossover. The Kallos 265 is priced at $1,900 each.
Yeah, not the cheapest. Not the cheapest. I mean, that is real wood that they're using on the cabinet there, so that's a large part of it. The drivers are not inexpensive drivers. They are very, very unusually high power handling. But yeah, these are not the cheapest. They're $1,900 each for the 265.
Yeah. Wait a second. I scrolled back up so I could click on the thing. They've rated it at 8 ohms nominal with 91 dB sensitivity, 2.83 volts per meter. And with its 400 watts sustained 800 watts peak power handling, can produce 117 dB peaks at 1 meter. So that's, loud.
Pretty good. You can sit pretty far away from these and still hit full reference volume.
The larger Kallos 465 is priced at $2,500 each. The added pair of passive radiators and larger internal volume of the cabinet changes the spec significantly from its little brother. 4 ohms nominal rating with a 97 dB sensitivity, 2.83 volts per meter, and 800 watts sustained, 1600 watts peak power handling for 123 dB peak output at 1 meter.
Yeah.
There's also a 12-inch sealed Kallos subwoofer model with the same finish options on the way, but it isn't listed for sale, and the price isn't listed yet either, so it's going to be cheap. So keep an eye out for that. These are like insanely expensive. So, but 4.5 inches deep. I mean, that's not that.
It's not that deep.
That's not that deep. That is unwallable.
Absolutely. And it is really meant to be. I mean, for the 80 hertz crossover, that's with it wall mounted, because they're like, yeah, if you pull this away from the wall and have it freestanding, you probably want to use 100 hertz crossover. So they are taking all of the excursion of these drivers that they use and putting that into output, as opposed to tamping it down in any way to increase the bass extension. They're like, no, we're just going to get down to the crossover, but we're going to get loud.
Yeah. This is an interesting... I'm looking for the black. It doesn't have it. It doesn't have a picture of the black one.
The larger one does. The 465 has.
Is that the larger one does?
Has a black exact. I mean, it's just matte black. It's not glossy at all. It's matte black.
Yeah. I don't mind that. If you're going to be on the wall, it's just such a weird. That light wood color is a little. I see what you're saying. It's kind of like that rhino. What do they call it? That bed liner stuff. Where it's
a little bit, the black finish. Yeah. No, it's just plain matte
simple.
black. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is for, I have a situation where I don't want industrial looking speakers. I almost certainly want to mount them on the wall, but I've got a pretty sizable room. I'm going to have lots of amplifier power on hand, because they get there by kind of brute forcing it, but they simply have higher output capabilities than almost any other on-wall speakers. The AVRant Theatris are maybe kind of their closest competitor.
Yeah.
But these ones are, slightly louder than that. So there you go.
Yeah. Not cheap, though.
Not cheap. But not crazy expensive. There are more expensive speakers than that out there.
Well, I mean, that's always the case. Yeah. Comments. SegaMasterSystm without an E.
That's right. All I had was the screen name.
On YouTube, heard a saying how, with Rayvon now out of business, we're left only with Panasonic, Sony, and Magnetar if you want to buy an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, but that's not true. Okay, we're about to be corrected.
Yes.
TASCAM, which sounds like a large language model.
Well, it's a division of TIAC is TASCAM.
I get it. TASCAM has an Ultra HD Blu-ray player called the BDMP4K. It goes for $800 and it's marketed as professional grade. Notably, it comes with rack ears, XLR stereo, and full 7.1 a full 7.1 set of analog audio outputs, 2 HDMI outputs, and a front panel display that actually shows track and chapter information during playback, because we definitely need that on the Blu-ray player.
Well, I mean, hey, if you're using it to play back CDs, it is awfully nice to be able to see the track number, and a lot of players do not have any kind of front panel display anymore.
They don't anymore. That's right, because they have on-screen display. You have to hunt for any mentions of it in the user manual, but it does support Dolby Vision and 3D Blu-ray playback. No SACD support, though, so it isn't quite a universal disc player to fully replace the old Oppo models. Boy, I wish Oppo was still around. It is dead quiet in operation, which is weird, because obviously I doubt
it's going in a rack.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go in a rack. It's going to be next to a bunch of stuff with fans in it anyways. So a lot of times they won't even bother making it quiet, but maybe it was easy and cheap, so they decided, well, let's make it quiet. And the build quality is top-notch, so it's a shame there's essentially no marketing for it and nobody talking about it on YouTube. Well, can't say that anymore.
That's right. And thanks to that correction, because honestly, I had no idea this thing existed. I was completely...
$800 is like a little bit on the side, though.
But I mean, not compared to the Revon and the Magnetar and even the old Oppo players. They were up around that price point. So, that's where they're going with this. But yeah, no, I'm glad to know there is another Ultra HD Blu-ray player out there. I didn't see any mention of HDR10 Plus support. Not that there's that many physical discs that use HDR10 Plus, but there are a few. That, however, doesn't necessarily mean it does not have it. I'm just not sure, because nothing about the product page of this or the description or anything is like aimed at consumers, because normally they have like the features listed, and normally things like Dolby Vision support, Dolby Atmos output, DTS:X support, like normally those things would just be in the regular feature list, and like none of that is here. You have to dig through the manual to find out what this thing supports, and even then it's like not super explicit. So they're not I can't say they're doing a great job of marketing this thing, but there it is.
Just to be clear, there are rack ears on it, but they look to be removable.
They are removable. Yes, the rack ears are removable.
XLR outputs are stereo. Then there is a full set of RCA 7.1 channel, and then also, I guess, a separate. left and right. Left and right, unbalanced for stereo analog out. That's weird. I don't know why they have another one.
There is a separate one. Yeah, I'm assuming it's whatever DAC it's attached to on the inside there.
There's a coaxial digital out. There's 2 HDMI outs, but the 2 HDMI outs are one's for has video and audio, and the other one is just audio only. So
that's right.
It just can't split. And if you're into such things, there's an RS-232 control as well. So there you go. That's one of the reasons why it's $800, because they probably sell it for like $30 to installers. All right. Karl noticed a problem with the deep bass in one of his local IMAX theaters. He let the management of that theater know about it, and they quickly responded that they would investigate and have it repaired. And without him even asking, they followed up and provided considerably more detail than he was expecting. Apparently, they did find a problem, but the parts needed to fix it were not already on hand. So they had to be ordered, and a technician from out of state would need to come to the location and install the replacement parts. I bet I could do it.
I don't know. Depends on what it is.
I don't know. All of that was shared simply because Karl had brought the issue to their attention. So don't be afraid. You know what, Karl? I'm waiting for them to say, here's some free tickets.
That wasn't in the email. I didn't see any mention of some free tickets.
In this report.
No, it wasn't in there.
You said, don't be afraid to report issues. Some theater owners and management really do care. Not enough to give you free tickets.
Seems
What's
like
up with that. I thought that when I saw Superman, I thought the sound was all stupid.
Okay.
I didn't think it was very good. I'll be honest with you. For IMAX, I expected a lot more.
IMAX should be the most consistent out of anything you could go to. Yeah.
Stefan in Belgium, and we're not to the questions yet, people. We're still in comments here. Stefan in Belgium. It's been a while, but he finally got around to buying the Rupio detachable fiber optic cable, HDMI cable, through cords, slim HDMI cables, and locking banana plugs that we recommended to him several months ago. Through cords. I get it, but still. He's happy to report the build quality is above what he expected, and he wanted to share some quick photos of some of the smaller details that aren't really shown in the product photos. So, again, Flickr album on our website, go to the YouTube video, and you'll be seeing them on the screen right now. Yeah. So there's pictures of things that I'm scrolling past. You can see like the connection between stuff and all these other. Oh, look at those! Those are pretty nice locking banana plugs. Or not locking, but compression banana plugs. Those are nice. All right.
Yeah, so those ones are locking because you on the banana plugs you twist the barrel and that pushes up the pin. He's like, he didn't see the like little pin that's on the very inside that splays out the end of that banana end. So he took a close up photo of that so that people could see. So you know how that mechanism works.
I can also reproduce your fingerprint now, and I can get into your computer.
That's right.
That's very close. Yeah, so these are, I've used this type of banana plug before. They're very nice. Yeah. So it's interesting. There you go. If you're curious about these through cords, whatever, Rupio, detachable, whatever, you can now have
it's Rui Pro, but yes, there you go.
Rui Pro, whatever. Chris, this is actual question number one. Finally, Chris bought himself a new 65-inch TV. He quickly tried out I don't know why I had to be so quick about it. He quickly tried out the built-in Netflix app just to make sure that there weren't any obvious defects with the screen overall, and everything seemed to work perfectly fine. But then he plugged his Apple TV 4K into it, which is his primary source device, and using Netflix on the Apple TV 4K resulted in some of the image being cropped off. He particularly noticed at the bottom of the image where the progress bar for whatever he was watching was not visible if he brought up the on-screen controls. He thought maybe his old HDMI cable was to blame. So he changed that to an ultra high-speed HDMI cable. That didn't fix the issue. Can we fix it for him? Yeah, it's about the Overscan or whatever it is that they call it these days.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but it is very often by default still the default on setting of Overscan. Now, typically when we're seeing it, they often call it just scan these days.
Right.
And like I say, by default, it's off and on. So somewhere in your picture settings, there will be something to adjust the aspect ratio of your display. That's typically where you'll find this setting. Now, the aspect ratio itself, sometimes by default, it's set to like stretch 4:3 content. So typically I'll want to set that to a setting of either like original or 16:9. And then the just scan setting, you typically need to turn on which is like not necessarily the most intuitive thing. By default, it's typically off on a lot of TVs. You turn the just scan on, and that gets rid of the overscan. Overscan is going all the way back to the CRT days and broadcast television, because if you now get copies of like the, you know, old broadcast TV, the 4:3 aspect ratio format, and you throw that up there pixel for pixel, just scan turned on a modern LCD or OLED TV, you'll see some noise in the image, some static noise, just looks like, you know, black and white static at the very top and sometimes the very bottom of that 4:3 image. And all of that was in the signal, right? That's just being reproduced completely faithfully now. But your old CRT TV used to have overscan. It would draw the image larger than the actual viewable screen. And so that noise, static noise, would end up above and below the viewable frame of your image. And that was overscan. So by default, our flat panel TVs, for some bizarre reason, still have overscan, as though we're watching analog 4:3 broadcast TV on these things by default, and not digital pixel for pixel images anymore. But yes, I did email very quickly back, because I'm like, that's one you shouldn't have to suffer through until the next episode of this podcast. And so he did find this is a TCL TV that he had. He found screen settings within the picture settings menu there. Overscan was on by default. He sent an image. He's like, yep, I turned that sucker off. Aspect ratio was already set to 60:9. That's fine. But then there was also an auto detect feature. So yeah, the next question, we can go into some of that.
I will say too, that used to be, and especially with VHS, the audio track is kind of to the right of the image.
Yeah.
And if you, on some TVs, like when they first started coming out with flat panels and stuff like that, you would see like this weird green flashing lights on the right side of the screen. People were like, what is that? What is that? We're like, that's the audio information.
It got scanned. It got scanned by the digital scanner.
Trying to show it up there. Anyway, so he hunted through his new TV settings menu until he found what appears to be the aspect ratio settings that Rob had described in there via email. There was an auto detect and an intelligent picture setting that both said they would automatically adjust the screen according to the detected signal. So he turned those off. The aspect ratio was already set to 16:9. And then there was an overscan setting, which was on by default, so he turned that off. That seemed to produce a successful result. He could see the progress bar at the bottom of the screen again, but then, for some reason, it went back to being a cropped image again. Plus, the upper left corner of the screen seemed to go slightly discolored if he paused. Strange. At that point, he manually restarted the Apple TV 4K, and voila, that seemed to solve it. So, he knows it is definitely possible to get an uncropped, correct-looking image from his Apple TV 4K connected to his new TV. But is it going to stay that way now? I mean, I don't know, man. Wait till they push an update. Why would it have been working for a while after he made the screen settings change, but then go back to being cropped again for no apparent reason? Could be a lot of things, but I mean, the Apple TV 4K, every device these days. I mean, this happens with my phone. They'll push an update, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is an update or whatever. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what has happened? Nothing works the way it's supposed to work anymore. Rob and I were just trying to how long have I had this laptop?
Yes, that's
years, and I still cannot get this auto mic adjustment.
Oh, and we've had some of those events coming through, at least as far as what I'm hearing across our Teams connection. So it is dynamically adjusting that mic volume.
I'm sure it's a mess. As I get louder and softer, I can turn it on. I'm looking at it right now. It hasn't changed, but I bet if I was louder for a second, there it goes. It just went down a little bit.
It changed at some point, that microphone level. But this, I can't say for 100% sure it wasn't necessarily to do with an update to the Apple TV 4K itself. I would say most of our TVs these days, that setting for the overscan, the just scan, if that's what it's called, the aspect ratio setting, it's very often memorized input by input. That's probably not the case here. You probably weren't changing HDMI inputs, but it is something to be aware of, right? You plug in another source device, a gaming console, a disc player, something like that, and then.
But sometimes if the signal changes,
that's
like
exactly
that,
it. Yes.
What the Apple TV 4K is like. Now I'm watching an old show from Netflix, which is sending out a weird aspect ratio, and your TV's like, well. He probably really wants me to deal with
if the source device puts out a different resolution, changes from HDR to SDR or SDR to HDR, changes frame rate, all of those types of differences in the signal can sometimes result in, typically you only have to do it once, right? But you have to do it for every signal type on every input is often the case with a lot of TVs when it comes to that aspect ratio and just scan setting. Unfortunately, I certainly wish it would, but that's probably the most likely thing, right? You threw up something you were familiar with on Netflix, you got that adjusted, and then when you went back to the Apple TV 4K menu, or you went to a different app, or you even went to just a different piece of content still on Netflix, but the first one you watched was standard dynamic range and the new one you watched was high dynamic range, or there was a change in the frame rate, that could be responsible for that setting in your TV going back to its default of the overscan being turned on, unfortunately. So you'll have to do that multiple times, check multiple times, but eventually it will have received every signal type that you're likely to ever use, and then it typically remembers from there.
If you guys, we know we've talked about this many times on the podcast, but your AV receiver oftentimes does this with audio signals.
Sure.
Your audio signal comes in a stereo. You're
the first time it happens,
Yeah, I don't want it to be stereo. I want it to be this.
Yeah.
So then you change it. Now you never have to change it for stereo again. But then it comes in as a 5.1. You're like, well, I don't want it to be whatever decode up conversion you're doing. I want it to be this other thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have to change it for every individual one that comes in. And, maybe you haven't had a DTS EX signal come in yet, and it finally does, and you're like, what the heck's going on over there?
Well, and especially for normal people who aren't upgrading their TV every 2 to 3 years, like maybe you haven't changed your TV in 10 years. Maybe your old TV did this, but it's so long ago you forgot that you had to mess around with that setting, or maybe it didn't do this. And it's like, for anyone saying, hey, why go through something like this? It's like, if you're super familiar and upgrading all the time, you're like, okay, it's table stakes. I know for every change in signal, I'm going to have to go through and check my settings. It's like, why should any normal consumer have to have that knowledge built into them? Like, that's kind of ridiculous. But
why are we holding on to these old settings? It's like the LFP for LFE or LPF.
Low pass filter. Yeah.
Like, why is that exact?
We're saying it here on YouTube so that the AI algorithms can learn it and they'll be able to spit it out to you now, because Tom and Rob have said it. I'm sure it's paying extra attention and training on the AVRant
because of
podcast.
Our vast reach within the AV community.
That's right.
William. Last week in the news, we talked about the new Epson LS9000 projector model. Let's all remember that Rob did that. I had nothing to do with that. That's right. We referred to it as a replacement for the Pro Cinema 6050 UB and said that we were pleasantly surprised that Epson kept it at the same $4,000 MSRP. But other YouTube channels have detailed that the LS9000's native LCD panel contrast is only 18 to 1900 to 1, while the 6050 UB and LS12,000 use Epson's higher native contrast LCD panels that are around 5,000 to 5,500 to 1. So a number of people have pointed out that the LS9000 is really more of a 4050 replacement rather than a 6050 replacement. The Pro Cinema 4050 and Home Cinema 4010 use those same lower native contrast LCD panels, while the 5050 UB and 6050 UB use the higher native contrast ultra black LCD panels. So now that we know the LS9000 uses the lower, God, I feel just, God, I don't know why I've gone into this voice to do this, but now that I'm here, I can't stop. Uses the lower native contrast panels. Would we agree that it's actually rather overpriced? The 4050 had an MSRP of $2,400 after all, and while we obviously expect prices to go up for a laser model to cost more than a lamp model, can Epson really justify having bumped the price all the way up to $4,000? Oh my God, why did I do that?
Because it's internet speak. It sounds like you have to.
That's exactly how I read many internet comments, by the way. That's what it sounds like in my brain. Now you know.
Yeah.
So if you write me a comment and you're like correcting me on something, that is what you sound like to me. I am sorry.
Right.
I want to disagree with this person just on the basis of how this question is phrased. That's since you wrote the question, I can't really blame
it. It is me rewriting and paraphrasing. So yes, you can't blame entirely. I see, honestly, I see an argument on both sides.
Yeah.
Because Yes, like native panel contrast does matter because we don't have full array local dimming on a projector, right? So if you are putting up a bright white pixel right next to a pure black pixel, there is nothing that the projector can do beyond the native panel contrast to increase the contrast that you're seeing in that image. They can't locally dim using the lasers. There is global dimming, right? The lasers can globally dim. If the entire image got darker overall, they can dim that down, and it does so faster and less noticeably than the old mechanical iris that the lamp-based projectors had. But yeah, if you got a bright white pixel right next to a pure black pixel on that screen, it's the native panel contrast, that's your limit, and that's going to be lower. It's going to be lower than the 6050 UB that has now been discontinued, and this is taking over that price point. So that is a genuine argument. I get it, and I agree with it to a large extent. On the flip side of it, if you're looking at, okay, what part of the price market does this new LS9000 occupy? Well, it is obviously occupying the under $5,000 category, which is where the 6050 UB was there. The LS11000 and LS12000 came in a couple of years ago at this point, a year and a half ago, whatever it was at this point, but it's, been well over a year. And those were in the, $5,500 and $6,000 price category. So it's like, okay, just pure market-wise, this is a direct replacement, price for price, for the 6050 UB. I can make the argument on that side. But then we do have more advanced video processing and dynamic video processing going on in the LS9000 than what the 6050 UB had. Now, some people are going to say, well, you're kind of faking it. And I agree. You are kind of faking it, right? It's in real time analyzing the image that's on screen and dynamically adjusting things like the gamma for the overall image, like local contrast settings. It's not the same as local dimming, but it is like artificially brightening some pixels and artificially darkening others so that we're still stuck with the native panel contrast and a fixed amount of light over the entire panel for any given, frame, but you can dynamically process the image so that subjectively it looks like it's higher contrast than it used to be. And it's like, yep, it's fake. Yep, you're fudging it. But I'm going to make the argument that subjectively it looks similar in contrast, and because it can globally dim that laser more quickly and accurately than the mechanical iris, if you have an overall dim image, you're watching some Game of Thrones, right? And you got an overall very dark image. It's like, it doesn't look like the black level is worse than, the old one had higher native panel contrast, but it couldn't dim the light source as effectively as the new laser one does. So it's like, it is subjective, it is faking it in a way, it is relying on dynamic image processing. But if I'm just a consumer putting those two up side by side, I go, which one looks better? It's like, they look really similar in terms of contrast subjectively. I agree objectively. That's why I'm like, I'm of both minds. I can say, okay, I see the argument that this is more a direct replacement for the 4050, but then you look at some of the other features, and it's like, well, this does actual 4K resolution. It's not just pixel doubling, it's pixel quadrupling. It does it at 120 frames per second. That's a pretty significant upgrade over the 4050. It is quieter. It's a quieter projector than the 4050. The fan noise, I'm like, that's a significant upgrade. And then with all the dynamic processing, it looks just as contrasty. In fact, it looks a little bit more contrasty than the 4050 from all the people who've seen it in person. So I'm like, making the argument on that side, it's very much akin to saying, okay, you had a flat panel, an LCD flat panel from several years ago. It had higher native LCD panel contrast, but it had way fewer local dimming zones or no local dimming zones. And then I compare it to a TV from today, which the actual LCD panel itself, we can measure it all by itself, and it actually has lower native panel contrast than the old one. We have this in a lot of Sonys and TCLs now that are going for a wider viewing angle on the LCD, but it suffers that the native panel contrast is a little bit lower. But then they compensate with way more local dimming zones and better dynamic video processing. And so you're like, subjectively, which one looks higher contrast, even though the native panel contrast might have gone down on the newer one. So I think it's a very similar argument that subjectively the LS9000 still looks really, really good and competes and replaces the 6050 UB very well while giving you things like 4K 120 support and obviously a laser light engine.
Sorry, William.
it's a perfectly valid argument. But I say there is a valid argument on this is a 6050 UB replacement as well. I think you can argue either side.
Yeah. So one thing that happens a lot in home theater as well as other things is looking at one very specific aspect of a system.
Yeah.
In this case, the system is the projector.
Yeah.
And saying this is analogous to this other thing, and therefore they're the same or they're related to each other. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's how sometimes that makes sense, but many times it's just you're ignoring the rest of the system and all the improvements that have been made in the new one versus the old one, sort of thing.
Yeah. So
that sounds like what Rob's talking about here with the LCD panels. There is enough, even though the native contrast isn't as high as these older the 6050 and the other one he was talking about. It doesn't mean that this new LS9000 isn't still competing favorably with the 6050.
And you know what? You're going to be able to pull up specific examples, right? Still frame images where you're going to be able to say, oh, see, look, the new LS9000, despite all its more advanced processing and better light engine and all that, it side by side actually has the same contrast right in this moment on this still frame as the 4050, and the 6050 looks better on this still frame. Like, you're going to be able to do that example.
Sure.
And I'm not going to argue that if the LS9000 were $2,500 or $3,000, like, I'd be really happy about that. Yes, a lower price would be great. If the LS12000, which is definitely, like, you can make the argument is a direct replacement for the 6050 UB, even though they coexisted for a couple of years, it's like, if that one were $4,000 instead, I'd be super happy about that as a consumer. I'm not making that argument, but I'm also not going to say that Epson is, like, completely unjustified ripping everybody off by pricing the LS9000 at $4,000, just like the 6050 UB was, even when the native panel contrast went down. So yeah, that's where I land on that.
All right. Mark's house is set up in a similar way to how I do things. His dedicated home theater is the main system for all TV viewing, gaming, and movie watching, not the living room like most people's houses. So he does his best to take good care of it. And while they are away on vacation for a week and a half, he completely powered everything down, by turning off the hard power switch on his computer on his power conditioner. When they are home, things use standby, but if he's gone for any length of time, he does this to completely does a complete power off thing. Yeah. But this time, when he returned home and powered it all back on, he immediately noticed an audible buzz coming from his right surround speaker. He had actually just had the amplifier channel that powers that speaker repaired at Pyramid Audio, which is not a scheme, apparently. So that was disconcerting. But even worse, about 20 minutes later, his kids reported there had been a loud pop from one of the speakers and then no sound at all from what they were watching. When he investigated, he found that his center speaker was no longer playing anything. But thankfully, it was not the speaker itself. A second channel of his amplifier had completely stopped working. So now his Proceed HPA 3-channel amp only had one channel working, powering his left surround speaker. One channel that buzzes, that was supposedly just repaired recently, and one channel that's completely silent. He's using an Anthem AVM 70 Pre-Pro, but only a 5-speaker setup. He's got 2 channels out. His front, left, and right speakers are powered by a Proceed. I don't know where you should put the emphasis there. HPA 2-channel amp, and that seems to be working just fine. His speakers are all TASCAM series, and he's got a JL Audio Fathom F113 sub.
None of this is cheap stuff.
I was going to say,
this is all
skipping out over here.
Pretty good pricey stuff, yeah.
The room is roughly 20 by 15 feet 20 feet wide by 15 feet long, and the ceiling is sloped, so it's 8 feet at the short end and 9.5 at the tall end. The seats are 9 feet from the front speakers, and the surrounds are 8 feet from the main seat. These particular Theo speakers are not particularly efficient and are rated at 4 ohms nominal. They've got high power handling at 400 watts continuous, and its Proceeds amps have served him well for over 25 years, but the 3-channel amp is clearly having problems now. So what do we think he should do? Should he attempt another repair? Pyramid Audio is apparently the only shop still servicing them, and well, the last repair doesn't seem to have been successful. He doesn't have any plans to replace his Anthem Pre-Pro or his Teal speakers. He still wants to use XLR connections, so it's time to proceed to replace the Proceed amps. Naturally, he's looked at Anthem's amplifier models, MCA series is currently on sale, so he could replace just a 3-channel amp for $2,300, or he could get a 5-channel amp for $32. He found it surprising that his Proceed HPA amps weigh about 120 pounds each.
Are they pure Class A?
Lord. I was not expecting that.
Yep.
Well, his Anthem MCA amps, the Anthem MCA amps are only 60 pounds or so. Does that indicate anything? Yeah. Not a lot of wasted metal in them. I mean, how hot do these things get? Yeah, My Lord.
They made the heat sinks out of tungsten or something. I don't know what's going on there.
Should he keep his 2-channel Proceed amp as long as it remains in good working order? Or is there some other amplifier entirely that he should get? He doesn't want anything that's going to sound harsh or overly bright. Oh, well, yeah. So that's not something we're worried about here because we don't.
Yeah, because we're going to say, how about an amp that is objectively ruler flat into any load regardless of frequency? That's
let's talk about why this might be happening. So I don't know. He just said he turned off his power conditioner, right? Yeah. And given the level of speaker amplifier stuff he's got here, I don't know what power conditioner this thing may be and whether or not it even does any actual protection from spikes or any of that. Mm-hmm. So many times there should be like passive power protection, meaning that if there's a spike someplace, a lightning strike, something happens in the line, there should be some level of passive power protection that will a fuse that will blow that will cut off the power to all of your speakers or you know all the devices that are connected to the power conditioner. There should be. There isn't always. And not only that, there's so many flanking paths for a spike to come into your system because people don't think about things like, oh, I have an Ethernet switch that I'm using and it's plugged into the wall, or it's plugged into the power conditioner, but then the Ethernet is hardwired into my router, which is in another room, and that one isn't protected. So there's lots of ways that you can get a spike. So many times I would not recommend turning off the power conditioner because that there might be some active circuitry in there to help protect your gear. But then I would also be very, because this sounds to me like you had a power surge.
I don't know. Does it? To me, it doesn't really sound, because nothing else is affected. You had an amplifier that already had one channel that was acting up. Normally when it's working but buzzing, it's like that is a misalignment. There's something that's misaligned in, I don't know if this is a blade design, but that's it. And then you had one that cut out. It's like that could just be one of the caps is blown in that that other channel. I don't know that this sounds like a surge got into this because nothing else was affected. This one amp that already had problems that required servicing in the past. So
the weak link gets the doesn't have to be that much of a surge for something that was already having issues to suddenly have a lot of issues. It might not be, like Rob said.
Yeah.
First of all, we don't know what's going on here. Is the amp bad? Well, the amp has clearly got issues.
Yeah.
I am hesitant to blame the repair company for not doing a good job. A lot of times you don't know what's wrong until it's actually wrong. It might look fine, and then
oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? So I would give them at least the chance to make it right, and then while they're doing it, say, "Hey,
this other one is completely silent now. This other channel, because I mean, if this was a recent repair, usually repair shops have some kind of like it's not exactly a warranty, but like some kind of
reasonable.
Yeah, like this was just in the shop a month ago, and now I don't know if there's a different problem or the same problem, but normally like a lot of them will want to get it back and be like, what the heck went wrong? So I would give them that opportunity for sure. I don't know what the price point is going to end up being like to get the one that was powering your center channel.
Surely it's not $3,200 though, or $2,300. So
I doubt. Yeah, well, who knows? And then also just transporting this thing when it's 120 freaking pounds.
That's the other thing. I'd get another amp.
I'd want a friend to help me lift that, because that's at the the top end of being safe, especially if you're coming down some stairs or up some stairs or something like that. But first of all, I don't think I'd go replacing your 2-channel amp that's powering your front, left, and right speakers until something goes wrong. I think I'd probably stick with that because you've obviously been happy with it all this time, and until there's something wrong, I don't think I'm looking to replace those. So, for straight replacement, I'm saying, hey, I'm considering getting a 3-channel amplifier or something like that, but instead of 120 pounds, instead of 60 pounds, and we're just talking
about
weight
a couple
here,
of ounces.
how would you feel about 10 pounds? Because I'm going to suggest that you go with a completely up-to-date, modern Class D amplifier from, I know I'm pointing you to Buckeye because they have the lowest prices on these things. $1,600, so we're under the price point you were looking at for either of those Anthem amplifiers, but I'm looking at their highest powered multi-channel from Hypex, the NC X500. Now, the way that Buckeye lists the specs is like the full peak power. So if you want to translate this into what we're typically used to with Class AB power amplifier ratings, multiply the wattage that they put on their product page by 2/3. If you take 2/3 of that, then that's where we are. Meaning this is a 250 watts per channel amplifier, and that is sustained. It will sustain 250 watts into 8 ohms all day long. It will sustain 500 watts into 4 ohms all day long. No problem at all. No distortion, no hiss, no hum, no noise. These things are remarkable, these new Class D amplifiers that we have now. So given the price point, given the incredible amount of weight that you're saving electricity with this too, because this thing is over 90% efficient, and whatever you're doing with those Proceed amps is probably 50 or under percent efficient. That's where I'm pointing it, is the NCX500 3-channel Hypex amplifier. I'm pointing it at Buckeye, but you could look for other ones if you want a fancy looking case.
So are you going to recommend the Buckeye gain stage or the Hypex?
The Hypex gain stage. Go with the Hypex gain stage. Yeah, the Buckeye one is a little bit strange. I'm not sure exactly.
I don't understand the high, medium, low switch.
And it's so high. The voltage you need out of your preamps is so high on some of those that it's a little bizarre. Yeah.
So is that what it is? It's about how much voltage is coming in?
Well, it's that thing we talked about last week of how many volts do you need from the preamplifier from your pre-pro. How many volts do you need coming out of its XLR or RCA connection to drive it to full power? And so I'm like, but the Hypex one is a completely normal amount of voltage, so just get the Hypex gain stage. Yeah.
Infinite Gary. Anthony Grimani did a write-up for residential systems to explain the IMAX enhanced system for home theaters and to promote it as something installers could use to entice their customers to spend even more money after having just upgraded their home theaters to support Atmos and DTX. He goes into detail about how commercial... I'm going to sneeze. Okay. I'm trying very hard not to, but I'm trying. He goes into detail about how commercial IMAX theaters use channel-based audio formats with no LFE channel and a discrete center height channel, none of which is translated one-to-one for the home releases. The default IMAX enhanced setup at home includes a 70 hertz crossover because Dolby can suck it. That's why. Yep. And it can be manually overridden. And optimizing all of that is something custom installers can offer to their clients as a paid service. So Gary wants to know, if you were starting from scratch, no, Gary, I'm already going to tell you no, and you're trying to decide what your optimal audio setup is going to be, does IMAX Enhanced give us, what does IMAX Enhanced give us that would be a compelling and good reason to make it a priority? There's no world in which I do anything special for IMAX Enhanced.
Nope.
There's nothing here. There's nothing here that your AV receiver isn't already able to do.
Yes.
Even if you got the channel based whatever from IMAX, the receiver go, hey, look, there's nothing in the LFE channel.
Yep.
But look at all this space that's in all the rest of the channels. Let me cut that off and send it to.
Yep.
I mean, it's really, there's nothing here. Nothing.
Yeah. When IMAX Enhanced first appeared on the very first Denon and Marantz models that supported it, right away when I was reading those manuals, and I was like, what is this base management configuration that they've come up for this IMAX enhanced thing. I'm like, this sounds terrible. Like every speaker automatically set to full range, even though the signal itself isn't sending very much content below 70 hertz, but still automatically set all speakers to full range. Then the subwoofer is there, not getting an LFE signal, but getting a predetermined bass managed signal that's built into the signal itself. I'm like, well, what is this nonsense? And then, Denon and Marantz rather quickly issued firmware updates for those very first receiver models that supported that. We're like, okay, you can turn that nonsense off and just go back to the bass management that you already set up. It's a DTS-X codec. And unless you have a receiver that specifically supports IMAX Enhanced and recognizes the flag and goes into DTS IMAX Enhanced mode, every other AV receiver will still play back the soundtrack completely normally as a DTS-X soundtrack with normal bass management, and the AV receivers that do recognize that flag and do have a DTS IMAX Enhanced mode, you can manually turn it off and just run it as normal, which is exactly what I would do. I would just run it as normal DTS-X, because that's still the format that it's coming in, and that all works great, and I don't care about IMAX Enhanced audio. And Anthony Garmani was not being coy about it. He's like, this is a thing you can charge more money for. It's another truck that you can roll to do this new calibration for IMAX. Like, he made no bones about it. The article was written for installers, not for customers. There you go.
And, customers want to be sold things. Yeah. That's just what it comes down to. They want to be, they want to know that their stuff is different, unique, and better than the other guys.
And up to date.
Yeah. Gary has had his Runco projector and 92-inch 2.35:1 aspect ratio Studio Tech 130 Stewart film screen for quite a long time now. If he were to increase that, doesn't he sit like super close to this thing anyways?
I don't know.
If he were to increase the screen size to 120 inches, still 2.35:1 and still a Studio Tech 130, but keep the seating position and the projector the same, would the image appear to be less sharp?
I mean, it's the same number of pixels, and each pixel got bigger.
Yeah, I mean,
that is just objectively true.
Somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
Would it be noticeable? Or did you just go, oh my God, I'm sitting too close to this thing? You know what I mean?
I mean, Gary would notice it. Yeah, no, objectively, every single pixel on that screen got larger. That is just a fact, because you didn't change the projector. So, it's all blown up. So yes, it will look slightly less sharp.
All right. Brian, he asks, hey, did Lee ever get that new center speaker he was talking about? I'm going to guess no.
Nope, not yet. Nope. Lee warned us all. It's a long time process. So nope, he has not purchased any new center speakers.
Remember how long it took us to get him to buy subwoofers and to admit that his stupid Yamaha speakers
Trust us, Brian, when he does, it will get reported on this very podcast.
Yeah. I will be suitably underwhelmed. Brian and his wife recently moved into a new house. Before they moved in, the living room was plain and bare and white, which is what they do so that everything looks bigger.
Yeah.
So the first thing they did was paint the living room. The walls are dark blue now, and the living room area is 11 by 16. But it's wide open to the kitchen on the right side and the hallway on the front right, and there's a big window taking up almost the whole left side, along with a door on the left side too. So there's pictures, Flickr album, or YouTube. And it's
a living room. It's next to a kitchen. You get the idea.
Don't necessarily. I mean, some of you are going to be like, I can't believe you painted the blue. I honestly don't care. Hey, dog, you all right over there? Just shaking your whole head,
flapping some ears. Yep.
Fun stuff. Anyways, I like blue. I don't necessarily.
Oh, and this is a nice dark blue, and it doesn't look particularly glossy. This looks pretty matte finishy. Yeah. I mean, it's not matte, but pretty satin finishy type thing. So I like.
So not depicted in the photos he sent is a new front wall treatment behind the TV using Artica Sonolock wood slat absorbing panels plus a large rug and drapes to go over the windows. So these things have like acoustic material behind them?
Some foam with some wood slats on front of it. So yeah, this is absorbing some of the highest, scattering and absorbing some of the highest frequencies, but not even the full vocal range, certainly nothing in the bass. But it's, it gets rid of some slap
better than
echo.
nothing.
Yeah, so a zingy slap echo will be ameliorated by that on the front wall. So we don't see it in the images because he took these photos before he put that up, but there's a big rug, some drapes, and those panels on the front wall now.
what is that behind the TV? Is that like the thermostat? I'm a little. What is that?
I don't know. There's some
box?
little white box. I don't know.
Oh, that's weird. Anyways, so you put that stuff up.
Yeah.
It isn't acoustically treated like a dedicated theater, but it isn't as hard, flat, and reflective as before they moved in. It's honestly as much treatment as there going to be in the living room. So that's the situation we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Back at this old place, it used to have a AVRant slimline receiver that was powering a set of 3 Ascend HTM 200 SC speakers across the front with Paradigm Cinema series satellite speakers and the Rhythmic L12 sub. But he sold all of that when they moved and planned with a plan to start over from scratch. For the time being, while they're still moving in, he set up SMSL 2-channel amp and a vintage pair of Paradigm 5 SE speakers along with an old 50-inch Vizio M series TV. The couch is about 10 feet from front wall. He knows we'd say they get a much bigger TV screen, but they honestly only want a 65-inch. He cares more about the audio side of things, and that's where he'd like our help deciding what this living room configuration is going to be. Why don't you put some of these JTR speakers on the wall? They're going to go right in with that. They're going to go right in there with those slats.
That's some overkill.
just put them in there. Tell you what, you'll be able to hear the music when you're doing some house cleaning with you're vacuuming.
Yep.
Just turn them up. You'll be able to hear it. You don't need headphones.
Open that front door, go out the door, and across the street, still hear your music.
Still hear it.
Yeah. As long as you got an 800-watt amplifier, that is.
Hey, I got a guy who's trying to get rid of a 120-pound 3-channel amp that only has one channel actually working. All right. First up, where should he position his surround speakers? And should he even entertain the idea of having both surrounds and surround packs? No. Given how the right side is completely wide open to the kitchen, should he mount something like the SVS prime elevation speakers close to the ceiling on the support beam that runs along the ceiling on the right side and then above the large window on the left side? Or should he just put the pair of surround speakers on the back wall and call it a day? No surround backs and try not to worry that his surround speakers are behind him rather than to the sides. Why can't we just remember that that's the way it used to be? We used to have them back there. That was the optimal position.
They were always meant to be to the sides and a little behind you and a bit elevated.
It was not uncommon for people to...
It was not uncommon to have surround speakers on the back wall behind you. That is not uncommon.
I think that either of these... First of all, I think putting them near or on the ceiling to either side of the couch is fine.
Could be okay
if you wanted to. I also think putting them on the back wall behind you and elevated is also fine. I would. So this is how I would decide to do this.
Okay.
I would say, honey, these are the two options for where I put the speakers.
Yes.
Which would you prefer?
Yeah.
And then whatever they say, that other person in your life, that's what you do. Okay. Because it honestly is not going to make that much of a difference. From the standpoint of setup and having things look nice, getting like a wireless speaker setup for your surround back speakers.
Well, he does mention just coming up, he has full attic access, so he can run the wires up and over the ceiling and down the walls. So.
Just install in-ceiling speakers.
Well, that's coming up too for other purposes. But yeah.
We're going to go full Atmos in here, are we?
Yep. So specifically for the surrounds, my thought is I would not have surround backs. I'd stop at 5 for the so-called floor level. And I looking at this room, if it were my room, I'd be putting my surround speakers on that back wall. I'd have them kind of as wide apart as I can, so kind of close to the corner of the room, and then the corner between the living room and the kitchen, even though that's an opening. So on that blue wall, as wide apart as they can. But that's what I would do in this room. I think that makes the most sense. Also, I'm not sure that mounting the surround right speaker on that support beam is going to be the easiest thing, because that might be solid. It could possibly be metal, but very often that's a very solid beam, because that looks like a structural support beam that's going across in between the kitchen and the living room there.
Could be.
Mounting a speaker on there isn't necessarily going to be the physically easiest thing, so I'd use the back wall.
Could also just be wood.
It could.
put some wood screws in it. It'll be fine. He does want the system to be able to support Atmos soundtracks, but he's open to the actual speaker layout being in any number of configurations. He is frugal, and he likes finding B stock or sale prices, and he takes his time, but he doesn't want to regret any purchasing decisions. JTR, baby. No regrets.
Some regrets.
You would regret how much
Price,
money you spent,
size,
but it won't be. You won't regret how loud they get.
Right.
Think of all the headroom. He can access the living room ceiling from above, so installing in-ceiling Atmos speakers is a viable option. But does he stop at 5.2.2 or does he aim for 7.2.4? That's going to determine what sort of AV receiver he needs. So, what do we recommend in this room? What do we think the final configuration he's aiming for ought to be? If you're going to put overhead speakers, put 2 sets. And then
meaning four in-ceiling speakers in total. 4 in-ceiling speakers.
Front, whatever we're calling them these days, top fronts and
top fronts, top
rears
in this case, yeah. And that was also then another argument for having your surround speakers on the back wall, slightly elevated so they clear the back of your couch, but not so high up that they're just mimicking what your ceiling speakers are doing. You get a little bit more separation that way. So that's another one. But I do
that's 5.2.4. Yeah, 5.1.4 probably in here, honestly.
Well, he mentioned 0.2, so I'd have no problem with that. But yeah, so in terms of, what receiver I'm going to recommend, because that seems to be sort of the first thing he's going to purchase here. I think because he likes going B-stock, because he likes saving money, I'm going to point you to an Onkyo. So the price actually went up at Accessories for Less. They didn't have the super inexpensive price on the NR7100, the Onkyo TX NR7100. It's $800 now, but that is still quite a bit less money than anything else that's going to give you 9 speaker processing. And what I would actually recommend that you do is, you said you take your time and look for good deals in that. Before you install any of those 4 in-ceiling speakers, you can use the Dolby Atmos height virtualization and the DTS Virtual X processing. It uses 5 physical speakers, but then virtualizes the overhead speakers, but in a 4-speaker virtualization, front to back and left to right steering, exactly the way we want on the ceiling. So you can enjoy that virtualization, but you need a receiver that can process 9 speakers in order to do that. Otherwise, when it virtualizes, if it's a 7-channel receiver, it'll only virtualize 2 overhead speakers and only give you left to right steering, no front to back if it's a 7-channel. So that NR7100 is the least expensive. I'm going to mention, though, that for $100 more, we're talking $900 now, but that is still considerably less than other 9-channel receivers. There is the Onkyo RZ30, which basically has replaced the 7100 now. And the advantages of the RZ30 are, I don't think you need it, but the RZ30 does have a full set of pre-outs if you ever wanted to entertain the idea of adding amplifiers. The TX NR7100 does not have speaker pre-outs. It just has subwoofer pre-outs. It has no speaker pre-outs, so you're relying on the built-in 9 amplifiers of the 7100. The RZ30 has a full set of pre-outs if you ever want to entertain the idea of adding external amps. Also, the RZ30 can be upgraded to do Dirac Live bass control. The NR7100 comes with Dirac Live. That comes with it. You don't have to pay any extra for it. The RZ30 also comes with Dirac Live room correction. But if you want the option of paying extra and upgrading to Dirac Live bass control, the RZ30 is capable of that for an added price. The NR7100 is not. So if those are enticing to you, it's $100 more. It's $900 for that RZ30, but I can make an argument for it if any of those features sound nice to you for that extra $100. But yeah, I think an Onkyo receiver is the way to go here.
All right, my wife is texting me, so I need to deal with that. But Paul is finishing his basement ceiling rather than just paint in a bare flat surface. Should he put Rockwool on the ceiling and cover it with acoustically transparent fabric? He already has 8 absorption panels on his walls. He could put a full pack of insulation on the ceiling if it would be beneficial. How much should go up there, if any? So the rule of thumb is what, like 30%?
30% at the most. Aim for probably not less than 15%. So between 15 and 30% is a really nice. So yeah, what you would want to do is, because we don't actually know his room's dimensions, so total up the surface area. That's all 4 walls, the ceiling, and the floor. But then consider what is on the floor. Is this a hard surface on the floor? Because then you consider it a fully reflective surface. If it's a fully carpeted floor, then it is partially absorptive, but only in the high frequencies. And that's where I can start making the argument of, okay, instead of having like 30% of the walls and ceiling covered in absorption only, and then also having a carpeted floor, maybe I want some of those panels to be combo panels so that I'm not really deadening the very high frequencies, or just less absorption overall. Maybe I'm closer to the 15% surface area mark than I am the 30%.
You could cover the entire ceiling with fabric, but not wall to wall.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't cover
absorption panels, the whole absorption material up there.
Whole ceiling and absorption, but certainly having a couple or 3 or 4 panels up there at the first reflection points of the ceiling could be something that you could do, or lining sort of the corners, right, the edges of the room. Could be a really good way to come at this, because bass trapping, you can never have too much bass trapping. So maybe the very best thing you could do is actually in the edges along the corners, make sort of false looking soffits, right? They look like soffits, but it's actually just insulation and covered by fabric in there. But yeah, you'll want to total up, because I don't know how much 8 panels surface area wise is covering right now. If this is a 10 foot by 12 foot room, that's a significant percentage. If this is a 15 by 20 foot room, that's a much smaller percentage of surface area covered. So it's going to depend on that. But yeah, aim for between 15 and 30%. If your room's already fully carpeted, probably closer to the 15 to 20% mark instead. If it's a hardwood floor, closer to the 30% mark.
Right. It ends up being a little bit of math.
Yeah.
So, John in Ireland. How much?
We got a half hour.
It's only an hour and 33. Jesus. John in Ireland. John is happy with the Elec Debut 2.0 tower speakers that we gave him the thumbs up to buy. They've brought a smile to his face. And I'm surprised at how heavy they are.
Nice.
Right. They came with spike feet. Should he use those? He's got wooden floors. Nope.
No, double
Never.
No. Double no on the I don't want to put spike feet onto wooden floors, regardless. And then I also don't want to actively couple my speakers to the floor. I want to decouple my speakers from the floor. So no, I would not.
So I'm going to link up an article I wrote on AV Gadgets called How to Best Decouple Your Speakers, which will help you with this. But the idea here is that what you don't want is the vibrations that your speakers are creating. Well, my speakers don't create vibration. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they
Shut
do.
up. That's all they do. In fact, that's literally their only
job
is to create vibrations. And if you think that they only come out of the driver and they don't go into the cabinet, I've got science to sell you. Anyways, you don't want that cabinet vibration to go into the floor and then start shaking the floor, which will shake your walls, which will shake things on your walls, which will make sounds. So you want to decouple. So putting spikes, first of all, into your hardwood floor sounds like a terrible idea. But sometimes they sell you they'll also offer you these little things that look like pennies that have a little dimple in them that you can put the spike into, which will put the whatever. And I'm like, I know that looks cool. I'm not going to lie. It does.
It also looks very often fails to protect your floor finish because it is so easy to move that speaker that spike off of that little disc.
Yes.
So
you might as well just scratch your floor.
Yeah.
Immediately, because that's what's going to happen.
So I don't know what else came in the package. If it came with any rubber feet or even felt pad feet, use those instead. But even then, usually those pack-in felt feet or rubber feet are not very compliant. They're not very squishy. So I wouldn't mind having the outrigger feet that are on there. I like having that wider base. In fact, more surface area. That's great. Spread the downward force around, fewer pounds per square inch that way. But I would kind of want to put it on something that's a little bit compliant. That can be as simple as a felt mat or any sort of kind of rubberized material. Anything that's a little bit squishy.
Yeah. So he says, if you were to put carpet squares under each foot, should he use the spikes then? No. I know you want to use the spikes. And the answer is don't use the spikes.
No. Also, they'll just pierce right through those carpet squares and you have scratched your wood floor again.
There you go. And he asked, does he need to rerun Audyssey? He was already using an 80 hertz crossover. So if he keeps that the same, will rerunning Audyssey make any real difference?
It could. You should rerun it.
Yeah, I would rerun it.
Definitely.
You make a change as significant as this.
Yes. New front speakers, that's a rerunning of Audyssey.
Well, okay, let me be clear. If you had run Audyssey with these speakers and the spikes attached and in your room, and then you said, I should decouple these? Fine, I'll decouple these. And then you decouple them, I would still say rerun it. So if you just changed your speakers, that's an automatic rerun no matter what. Yeah. No matter what. But even with the same speakers, going from a coupled to a decoupled state, I would rerun because Audyssey was detecting noises that were going on because of your...
And it can change the bass response in the room.
For sure.
That's the major thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we got some Sasi situation going on.
Yeah.
Let me check my phone. Hold on a second. Let me see what's going on.
Yeah, we had some...
I have to pick up my son. Okay, I got it.
You got enough time?
Sasi. Can we recommend a pair of wireless earbuds with a focus on microphone quality that come with a USB dongle instead of relying on Bluetooth? Can we just say no and skip this question?
That's a good series of caveats there.
Yeah. I have reviewed a wireless headset that was really supposed to be used in like a call center.
Yeah.
You know, and they had all kind of features like this, including a USB dongle or a different way of connecting, you know, so that not everybody was using Bluetooth, and there was supposed to be less lag and all this other stuff. And the microphone quality was absolute garbage.
I know. So many of them are.
So,
yeah.
I don't have a recommendation here.
Okay.
I will read the rest of this already extremely long question without me scrolling and tell you that the answer is I don't know, and I don't necessarily think it exists, and it's because no one actually cares about microphone quality. No one does.
Seems like a little bit, yeah.
So as we might be able to guess, these are for video calls. They don't need to sound particularly great for music or anything, but his voice needs to come through nice and clear for the people he's talking to. He doesn't want to appear on the video calls with large headphones on or a cord dangling down. So he wants earbud style, preferably with stems. But he's already tried various Apple offerings, which often came highly recommended, and the Samsung Galaxy Buds, and none of them were quite up to stuff for him. So he wants earbud style with stems preferred, not reliant on Bluetooth. That's what's killing you right there. Priority on the microphone. But then he also wants them under $200, with around $100 being ideal. He wants a long battery life, a minimum of 6 hours on the charge, but closer to 8 would be ideal. In his own searching, he's come across the Plantronics Poly Voyager Free 60. That hurts my brain just reading.
There was actually more to that name, but I shortened it to something somewhat pronounceable.
That sounds like a cult. And the Anker Soundcore VR P10, but if we know something better that checks all the boxes he's looking for, he'd very much like to hear it. I'm going to say Soundcore. If that's an option, they're generally speaking.
I'd give them a try, especially at their like right around $100 price point. I'd be willing to give them a try. Buy it from a place you can return them, but I'd be willing to give those a try. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be my suggestion, because most of the headphones I've been using lately are the ones that survive the floods are from Soundcore and Earfun. And the Soundcore, Earfun are fine. I got no problems with the Earfun.
The mic is not good on those.
No, I don't use that part. Yeah. No one does. Don't be ridiculous. No one uses that. People don't call each other. I don't even know why they call them phones anymore. They should be called texts, because they're not. No one calls.
Right.
But the Soundcore are just across the board a higher quality than most of the other headphones I use. So if something's going to be good, it would be the Soundcore.
So
for his 2-channel bedroom setup.
No, I didn't get to answer. Hold on.
Oh, you didn't get the answer? Sorry, go ahead. I thought you had already answered by saying no.
Well, so here's the problem. I can't check all the boxes because particularly price and then also availability. The one that came to mind is, okay, so this is very specific because I got a bunch of names that are almost exactly the same.
Oh, good.
So Razer, right? Razer, well known for a lot of gaming accessories. They had a model called the Hammerhead Pro Hyperspeed. Now, they've got a gazillion other earphones that are called the Hammerhead, or a gazillion other ones that are called the Hyperspeed, but specifically the Hammerhead Pro Hyperspeed had a pretty good microphone. Like, that's the thing. And they were the fully wireless with stems with a USB-C dongle that used 2.4 gigahertz wireless transmission. They do Bluetooth as well, but they specifically had the USB-C dongle and could be connected that way with very low latency. They were aimed at gamers who wanted the absolute lowest latency, and these had them. And out of all of them, they had a pretty darn good microphone. Now, the same cannot be said for every Razer Hammerhead earphone and every Razer Hyperspeed headphone. It was specifically the Hammerhead Pro Hyperspeed that had the good microphone. Problem is, they were MSRP of about $250, which is insane for earbuds. They got down to around $200 US, which was right at the max of your budget, but it's not a current model anymore. Finding them still available is a challenge. And then they had all kinds of issues where they had a 7-hour battery life, which was fine for maybe 6 months. And then the battery just started draining like crazy, according to lots and lots of customer complaints, which might be the reason it got completely discontinued and they don't sell it on their own Razer website anymore. So oodles of caveats. It's not really the right price you were looking for, but it's like the only one I could come across that like actually had a good microphone built into the darn things, maybe by complete accident. So I'll mention it. You might want to go looking for them, but otherwise probably get the Anchors.
All right, for his 2-channel bedroom setup, he still wants to have a sub, but it needs to be physically small. They already tried the SVS 3000 micro in his office, but for his bedroom setup, he's pretty sure he wants more substantial output than the 3000 micro can muster. So we went looking for other dual opposed compact subwoofer models and found Kef's offering. He thought that their KC92 with its dual 9-inch woofers looked promising, but then he dug further into its specs and the CEA 2010 measurements that some reviewers have provided. Mm-hmm. To his surprise, it's really only about half an inch smaller in all directions than his SVS SB1000 Pro. And then when he did his own CEA 2010 conversions to account for 1 meter versus 2 meter and half space versus full space, if he did those correctly, the KEF appears to basically be 3 to 5 dB quieter than the SB1000 Pro across the board. So you're just missing something here. The KEF is priced 4 times higher and claims 3 times higher amplifier wattage, but the SB1000 Pro seems to outperform it.
Yup.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than yeah. I mean, that's sort of unfortunately how these things go sometimes.
So I mean, yeah, you got dual 9-inch drivers, which total surface area is actually really close to a single 12-inch driver. When you
people don't get that.
Yeah,
people don't get
areas.
how much adding a little bit to the outside of something adds the surface area like incredibly increases. Like going from a 55-inch TV to a 65-inch TV isn't just 10 extra inches in one direction. It's so much more screen
it's also
than,
going from your,
than you had before.
2 medium pizzas to your single extra large. Right?
Yes.
It's like it's hard to eyeball it and realize that it's like the same amount of pizza. but that's kind of what's going on. So yeah, 2 9-inch drivers surface area wise is very similar to a single 12-inch driver. And then in that dual opposed sealed configuration, you've got a lot of vacuum forming inside of that sealed enclosure when both of those drivers are pushing outward at the same time. They are acting against all of that air pressure that's trying to squeeze them back in, and same when they push, like they are working against that trapped volume of air. I mean, the single 12-inch driver in a sealed cabinet is also working against that trapped volume of air, but when you have them dual opposing against each other, it's like doubling up that spring action of the air inside. They need all that amplifier power to really, really work themselves. So yeah, across the board, it's right around 3 dB that the SB1000 Pro is actually louder. CEA 2010, those conversions you did are not incorrect. It's about 3 dB across the board. Here and there, some of them are, some frequencies in those CEA 2010 measurements are 2 or 1.5, and some are closer to 5. But yeah, average is right around 3. And yeah, that's right about right. There's nothing particularly strange or surprising about that. So given all of that, the SB1000 Pro is probably the better way to go here. It's not that much larger. It's an inch and a half or about an inch in all directions. Versus the 3000 micro, it's pretty darn similar. Just extension and output wise, those two are pretty darn similar to each other with what SVS has done there. But the SB1000 Pro has a little bit more 25 and 20 hertz output. Just the benefit of the larger cabinet and the larger driver.
could we review what A, C, and Z weighting means when it comes to SPL meters and measurement microphones? Why have these different weightings? What is the appropriate and ideal to use for measuring speakers and subs? And what about fast versus slow response? So it's kind of about gating different, was it A, C, and Z. One of them is like only the high end, and one of them is like mostly mid range. One does the whole thing, if I remember correctly.
So
right.
Z weighting is the easiest to explain, which is that is just a flat line. That is just flat response. If you have a Z weighted microphone, it means that whatever sound pressure level was measured is exactly what's displayed on the graph. There is no rolling off of any frequencies. So Z weighting is just no weighting, and that's why they put it at the very end of the alphabet. A weighting, more or less, is trying to look at the human vocal range. Yeah. From about 500 hertz to 5 kilohertz, it is pretty darn flat and pretty darn accurate. But then above 5 kilohertz, it is rolling off, and below 500 hertz, it's rolling off really quite steeply. So the A weighting was partially to do with very inexpensive little microphones that you could use that are only accurate over that frequency range. But it's also what's used very often in like, hey, I'm moving into a new apartment complex. How much am I going to hear my neighbors talking? They measure it in A weighting. So it's like if that neighbor is playing some bass heavy music in their apartment next door, that's going to come through the walls. You're going to hear that bass thumping away. But if you've got a pretty good soundproofing rating in an A weighted scale, it means you probably won't hear their voices very much. If you're hearing muffled voices, you probably can't make out what they're actually saying in their conversation, but it's only for that limited range, only for that human vocal range. So C weighting is just a wider range. It's from about 80 hertz to about 8,000 hertz. That it's pretty darn flat, pretty darn accurate to the actual sound pressure level is what shows up on that graph. But then above 8,000 hertz, it's rolling off, and below 80 hertz, it's rolling off quite steeply. Pretty darn useful for something like setting your trim levels, even for your subwoofer, which is why we have always said on your SPL meters, we use that C weighting, because most SPL meters didn't have a Z weighting. Now with some of our digital SPL meters,
it was either A or C, and C was the better option.
It was either A or C. So they had the A there for the people who are just measuring, hey, can I hear my neighbors talking in the next room over? Or for like OSHA standards, which were typically in A weighting because they're caring about that frequency range. But then some of them are looking at the C weighting. That was a better option when it was the only other option we had for setting our speaker trim levels, because from 80 to 8,000 is pretty good for the pink noise that's playing. It'll give you a very clear idea of, does this one speaker need to be louder than this other speaker relative to each other? And it's good enough for that. But hey, if we can do everything in Z weighting now, why not? It means we're not rolling off or curtailing anything that we're measuring. The whole fast versus slow response, really, that was from the analog sound pressure level reading days. It was just that if you had the fast response going, that needle was bouncing all over the place.
And you had to kind of like stare at it and go, well, what's kind of the average?
That's right.
It's bouncing around like crazy.
That's right.
So what is the average of what I'm listening to, what I'm seeing here? Whereas slow weighting is just like, hey, here's the average.
I mean, it was literally a mechanical damper on the little needle. Yeah. It was like they just applied a little bit of lever force to that needle so that it couldn't bounce around as quickly. That's all the slow response was. So on our digital meters, we really don't need that. On the digital meters, you can say, hey, just give me the real-time readout, or do the capture, right? Capture just the loudest peak and show me that, or give me the average. Like, you can do all of those on our digital SPL meters or on a program like Room EQ Wizard or something like that. We really don't need the fast versus slow response, but you'll see some apps on your phone that are like mimicking the interface of that old Radio Shack meter. So they'll still show the slow and the fast response just because people are familiar with it and they want it because it reminds them of how those old analog meters used to look. But yeah, that's really all it was, and it's not necessary. So honestly, given the equipment we have at our disposal these days, the response shouldn't matter. Just, you're choosing, hey, show me the average or show me the peak and hold or whatever it is. And then, everything can be Z weighting these days. Why roll things off? Unless you're doing the type of test that specifically, hey, I only care about the vocal range, so give me some A or some B weighting for that. And that'll make more sense, because if I don't care about what's happening in the bass, then, give me some A weighting or some B weighting.
Yeah. Sasi has prompted us to talk about the Bach 3D Bach. 3D processing and standalone products in the past. There's 2 C's in Bach.
I didn't typo that. Bach. That's the company name. Yes.
It's a speaker crosstalk cancellation system meant to create something closer to a binaural experience from regular stereo speakers. He's asked us before if we thought it might ever be useful in soundbars, and we said we doubted it would ever happen, as it was most certainly be cost prohibitive, whatever. Canvas Hi-Fi has gone ahead and done it, and yeah, turns out it's an abnormally large for a soundbar and priced at $5,000. Interestingly, that is still cheaper than Bach's 3D's own products. But what do we make of this? Can we think of a market for this thing? Yeah. Rich people. That's what that's.
I mean, clearly, it is so ugly.
I'm clicking on it now.
That is not physically attractive, aesthetically pleasing. It is customizable so that you get it to be exactly the same width as whatever TV you're using, but the actual drivers and internals and all that remain the same, but you can customize it so that visually it's the same width.
It looks like that slat wall thing that other guy installed. Maybe that's what you should get.
I mean, kind of. But it's
got like the slat things.
It's very large. It's very big.
It is very large.
It's expensive. I mean, I'm certainly not the market for this thing. Yeah, who is the market for a $5,000? I mean, can you even call it a sound bar? It's a sound slab.
That Dragon one also around this price point?
No. I mean the Nakamichi Dragon is like $3,750 these days, $3,800, something like that. So even, and I mean, that is multiple pieces that genuinely surround you with 2 dual driver, is it 10-inch or 12-inch? I mean, they're sizable dual drive, like it's 4 subwoofer drivers in their own separate wireless cabinets, 4 separate surround speakers, and then a big old loud playing soundbar. So I mean, this is all about having that Bach 3D processing in it. How well is that going to work when the physical separation between, I mean, even the tweeters, which are on the outside edges of this thing, like I'd want to get this as physically wide as they're capable of making it, even if my TV isn't that wide for this to have.
That's not how you're supposed to do this, though.
Clearly
it's
not.
Supposed to match your TV.
Clearly not. And then, I mean, the Bach 3D processing for a stereo pair of speakers has never worked unless you sit equidistant between those speakers. Like it is, it's processing that is measuring it with a microphone and then using signal processing to do crosstalk cancellation from so that your right ear is hearing less of the front left speaker and your left ear is hearing less of the front right speaker. And rather than doing that in a physical means like a physical barrier divider, which we've seen some systems use, or headphones, my goodness, headphones are the easy way to get binaural sound. It is doing this with signal processing so that the left channel is playing sounds that are intended to cancel out the sound waves from the right channel as they reach your left ear, and vice versa on the other side. So yeah, you need some physical separation. You have to be sitting equidistant between it. To do all of that in a $5,000 sound slab that is an eyesore below your TV. I mean, I'm not the market for this thing. I'm not exactly sure who.
It doesn't attach. It doesn't seem. Does it? I'm confused about this wall mount because it seems to attach to the wall, which okay, I understand like that wall mount's attached to the wall, but why wouldn't this attach to the TV so that the TV, it would stay flush, because they show it like perfectly flush with the TV. Like that seems nigh impossible to do. But this, I don't know. This thing's very strange. It's got tweeters on the outsides, so the far edges, then the mid range, and then like a weird oval shaped woofer,
the racetrack bass woofer that's in there.
Yeah, whatever. And they're like, oh my god, it's the best. What is it called? They call it high-end SB acoustic speakers.
Okay.
Typically found in far more expensive hi-fi systems. Okay.
Sure, because the Bach 3D system is really expensive. I think this thing should cost more. I think they should price it at like $15,000, and sell it based on it being ridiculously expensive and nothing else.
So the other thing is that they talk about it being different sizes, but I don't think it is. It is for a 55-inch TV, and then you can buy a different grill for it, and the grill will line up with the edges of your TV.
Yeah.
But the speaker itself is the same size underneath there.
Yeah, almost certainly. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm looking at their little graphic here, and that's exactly what's happening. They keep changing the grill and stuff, but the speaker stays the same underneath. So there's very little. Like, this is dumb.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
But this is not for us.
No.
This is not for us. This is for people who want something, again, who are interested in having a thing that no one else has.
Yep.
And that a dealer like the IMAX Enhanced thing can come to them and say, this is why your system, no one else has this.
That's right. And that's why I think it should cost more. I think because you can't sell prestige and I'm the only one who has it at $5,000. That's too cheap to sell it that way.
No.
So yeah, price this thing at $15,000, $25,000. Price it really ridiculous.
Actually, custom make each one of the cabinets. Artisan or whatever the name of that company was used to do that. Yeah. And you could, you basically said, hey, this is the exact dimensions of my TV. Yeah. And I want to connect it to the bottom of this thing, or I want two speakers on each side, one on each side, that would, you would use for whatever. And then they would custom build you a cabinet. They would do everything.
Agreed.
Those things weren't expensive, weren't cheap, but they were. I mean, at least they weren't just a bigger grill. That's
cosmetic.
38 neodymium magnets. Whatever, dude. Shut up. Stop using neodymium magnets. They're awesome. No offense. I know they're awesome. I think they're cool. But at the same time, it feels like you have to ruin countries to get them. And that seems not right.
It's a rare earth metal. Rare being the operative word.
They don't call them rare for nothing.
Yeah.
Lastly, for Sasi, speaking of expensive soundbars, I put a comma in there that wasn't there. Kef has recently released their...
I'm going to say Zio.
XIO.
Yeah.
Okay, XIO. 5.1.2 soundbar price at $2,500.
It's a steal.
Get two of them.
It's a steal. $2,500.
It's a steal.
That's not $5,000.
This is Kef's first active soundbar, and it seems poised to go head-to-head with the likes of Sennheiser's Ambio and the Bang & Olufsen Bio Sound Stage, whatever that thing's called. They appear to be winding down the availability of their passive soundbar models. So what do we make of this shift towards increasingly expensive soundbars? Does anyone who is willing to spend this much on an audio system actually want a soundbar at that price point? Yes.
Yep.
This is okay. So this is. We asked before. You asked maybe before, but I don't. Maybe we said it. Who is this product for? This $5,000 soundbar. It is for the person who got the $2,500 soundbar and went, well, this doesn't sound as good as I thought it was going to get sound. And then they're like, okay, well then how about this $5,000 soundbar? This one's way better, and it's got this special thing, and the grill gets bigger for whatever reason. And maybe, they're like, okay, well, I mean, if I spend more money, it should sound better. And when they first install it, they're going to be like, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Oh my God, it sounds so much better. And then, 6 months later, they're like, I don't know. I think it was a waste of money if they can ever get to that point. I think that, first of all, passive soundbars are dumb. I think that they're, if I had a soundbar, I would want it to be passive, and right. I would attach it to my AV receiver. I am not a customer for a soundbar. I'm never buying one, and I think passive soundbars are dumb for that exact reason, because I think the people who want a soundbar do not want it to be passive in any way, shape, or form. They want to plug it in and have it.
Yeah, there's a very small niche of people who are looking for that product, but I mean. They are just following the market trends. I think we have fully reached the point where, obviously not the dedicated home theater enthusiasts, and then also on the flip side, also a step above the folks who are they just go to Walmart and buy the cheapest, biggest TV and never consider adding any external things to it, whether that be an external streaming device or external speakers of any kind. Okay, so those are the two extremes of the market. There's a pretty sizable chunk in between of the people who they buy a nice TV, they recognize that, the sound coming out of that very skinny flat TV that they just bought really is not up to stuff. At the very least, they're like, it's really hard to understand what people are saying. And there is one solution that comes to mind for the majority of people now, and that is a soundbar.
Yeah.
And the notion of much larger separate speakers that require at a minimum a third box that provides the power for them, right? So you got powered stereo speakers. Those are popular, largely to do with people just want to stream music, and they're like, hey, I'm familiar with there being a pair of speakers in a room. But like beyond that, right, it's like soundbar or a pair of powered speakers. The notion that you're going to have this big honking black, 17-inch wide AV receiver, like that is just completely not in most people's minds anymore. And we home theater people lament that because they're like, hey, don't get rid of all our AV receivers and don't make everything cost $8,000 plus, because soundbars aren't cutting it for us, but we are a minority in the market. I think there are fewer of us than there are the people who don't even notice that their TVs sound awful without adding anything. I think there's way more of those people. But the people who are adding something sound-wise to the TVs, like soundbar is what is in their heads. So I think it does... Like, I'm not cheering it on, but I think it makes market and financial sense for companies like KEF to be like, okay, we want to be the upgrade option, right? It's like people got the $200 soundbar, and then they maybe moved up to the $1,000 soundbar, and they're still saying it doesn't sound good enough. It doesn't get loud enough, or the voices still aren't clear. It's like, is there a next step? It's going to be a $2,000 or $2,500 soundbar. We're going to fill that in, but it's not going to be separate speakers. It's going to be another soundbar. That's all people have in their minds anymore. And I think that market does exist. And I think it makes market sense for these companies to do it. So I don't blame them. I'm not cheering it on, but I don't blame them.
I mean, just look at this thing. It is half the time it's shown being mounted to a wall flat, and the other half of the time it's being shown lying down flat.
Yeah, so that it can actually have upward firing Atmos speakers.
So, but I'm trying to figure out from the back if there's a way to configure this thing so that it knows what configuration you've put it in.
I think that is part of the app. Yeah.
It must be there someplace because it's not on the back. There's an on-off switch for something. It says PT maybe? I don't know what that means. There's an on-off button, and there's a some Bluetooth connection buttons back there, but I don't see anything that's a physical button that tells you how this thing is configured. This is exactly what people want, and $2,500 is just expensive enough where people think they're like, well, I mean, if it's $2,500, it's going to be good. Is there a subwoofer output in this thing? I didn't see that.
Yeah, there is a
subwoofer output.
Subwoofer RCA.
So, the thing about KEF is that you can at least count on them to have the kind of functionality that people will have to buy more KEF products in order to take advantage of. Mm-hmm. So that includes a subwoofer, like, I don't know, a dual opposed 9-inch, compact sub that they could put at the front of the room and wonder why they don't have any bass. So, this, in their great room that they have this thing in, this is exactly what people want. Yep. And I think $2,500, it's technically $24.99.99.
Sure.
So,
I mean, it's not even necessarily what people want. It's just, it's all they can picture. It's literally all they can picture. Is that it's a soundbar, and that if I'm not happy with my current soundbar, the only thing I can picture is a bigger, more expensive soundbar. That's the only path forward in a ton of people's minds, and I don't blame KEF for that. I think it kind of makes market sense.
No, I don't either. And I mean, like you end up with this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where people are like, I don't understand home theater, and guess what? I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I do understand home theater, and people ask me about it, and I'm like, nah.
And isn't it? It's Klipsch, right? Who's getting Dirac is coming in some of their soundbars now, or at least available for them. So even that whole not having a good version of automated room correction in a soundbar is changing at this point. So yeah.
I mean, they might as well. You got to put it someplace. Dirac is.
I don't think that's the most user-friendly choice.
Audyssey had a standalone product for a while. Remember, it was the SVS? They had their own processor for a bit.
Yep.
For Audyssey, that was cool. I like that. I should have that again. All right. Well, we're done. We got through all of Sasi's nonsense.
Yes, Sasi, send in your next batch of questions because I know he has them. He was waiting.
Oh my lord.
I mean,
all right.
Otherwise, we're not going to fill out this show. So why not?
That's okay. It would be okay to not have a 2-hour show every once in a while. I have to get going. I have to go pick up my son. Yep. So I want to thank our listeners of the week. I want to thank Brian for going to avrant.com, clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 126 patrons over at patreon.com.
For sure. Brian, thank you so much for that PayPal donation. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thank you to our 126 patrons over there.
I also want to thank Stefan for giving me permission to use his photos on AV Gadgets.
Thank you, Stefan.
And we've got notes of gratitude from Leighton, Infinite Gary, Joe, Brian, David, Sasi, and John. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say those names one more time. We got Leighton, Infinite, Gary, Joe, Brian, David, Sasi, and John. Thank you so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask us by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AV Rant.
Now go out and listen to something.